What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the Titan Swap suspension upgrade that I just recently did back in April. From the last time that you guys were on the channel, we did a deep dive into the whole build as a whole, and we looked at the current suspension setup that we had at that point, which was a 3-inch extended travel kit. Now we're on the Titan Swap suspension, and I haven't really had a chance to make a video yet, so here it is. But I have had a chance to test it. I did the trip in Canada with Darren Explorers, and 100% recommend that trip if you guys haven't done it. But I have had a chance to test it on that trip, so let me break it down for you, all the details, so you guys can know exactly what is on the suspension for this rig. Alright, so before we get started, first things first, how much lift is actually on the vehicle now? So right now, we're sitting about 5 inches of lift in the front and the rear. A little bit lower in the front, like maybe 4.5, 4 3/4, and definitely 5 in the rear. So how did we achieve that? Most of the time, Titan Swap kits get you about 3 inches to 4 inches. So let's break that down. So to start off with, for our UCAs, we're running the SPC Titan UCAs. Definitely worth it, in my opinion. More so than just a regular Titan UCA. Gives you extra travel and allows that articulation to really come alive with the SPC upper control arm. Obviously with the lower control arm, we're just running the standard Titan LCA. Probably we'll upgrade that to a more beefy LCA in the future, but for right now that's a brand new piece, so there's no really need to upgrade it past what it currently is. Now for the coilover, we're running the Xterra MKIIs with Elka suspension on it. It's a 2.5 coilover, and then the spring rate that we chose is 650 pounds, and that will really helps the vehicle float over and absorb all the bumpy terrain. And let me tell you, like driving on washboards, it's like doesn't even care. It's just absolutely like just in a cloud, and is just a wonderful truck to drive. As far as tie rods, brake lines, all that is standard Titan parts now. We do have stainless steel brake lines, and that about covers the front. If you're curious about the wheel and tire setup, we have standard black Rhino 17 by 8.5 wheels, and the tire still is, like the last video, is the MKII Baja Boss MT, 35 inches by 12.5, R17 obviously, and absolutely love these tires. These tires have been wonderful. They've held up really well, they've worn in very well, and they still look pretty much brand new, and I've been driving a lot. So I'm very happy with these tires, and 100% would recommend them to anybody else who is in the market for new tires. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the coilover and the setup that we have to achieve our 4.75 inches of lift. So again, the spring is 650 pounds, and then you can see the spring has been adjusted about an inch, so that's how we compress it to give us that extra lift. And you really don't notice much difference regarding like ride quality or extra springiness or recoil from the springs at all. So that's why I went with the MKIIs. The ram flows, the 2.5 ram flows don't really like being compressed this much, so it can really start to hinder your ride quality. So that's why we have the Xterra MKIIs in the front, and absolutely love these. These are wonderful springs, and yeah. Alright, so let's talk about the rear suspension. I'm sitting where the spare tire used to fit, and because I have so much lift, I can pretty much sit straight up. I am wearing a hat, so my hat does hit a little bit, but 5 inches of lift in the rear. So let's talk about how we achieve that. So here we have our 2-inch shackle, adjustable shackle. 2-inch adjustable shackle. Right now we're in the highest setting to achieve that full 2 inches. And then here we have our leaf springs. These leaf springs are from Alcan Spring, and they're custom built. I ordered them to come with a 3-inch lift built into the curvature of the springs, and then I also added additional springs for additional payload. So these springs are rated for an additional 1,000 pounds of payload on top of stock weight. And the reason I went with that much extra payload is because I have a lot of armor and accessories on the truck at all times, and that way it prevents me from getting any sag, especially when I'm fully loaded. When the truck is empty, which is hardly never, I usually keep pretty much everything in the truck at all the time. It is a little bit stiffer to ride. Ride quality is a little bit stiff in the rear, but with everything in there, like when I do a trip or go camping just for the weekend, with all that stuff in there, the spring rate, the spring stiffness, you don't really feel it, and it feels nice and smooth, especially when you air down, and you really get that nice soft ride that you would expect from the Titan swap. Now, as far as shocks in the rear, you can see we got rad flows with the remote resi. This is the 2.5 remote resi rad flow shock. Again, these are wonderful shocks. You get what you pay for, yeah, if you guys can spend the extra money, get the remote resi, get the rad flow 2.5s, you will not regret it. The ride quality that these shocks give you is absolutely wonderful, and they allow the articulation to really happen like you would expect, and you would be looking for in the rear by doing this type of upgrade. And yeah, wonderful things all around. Alright guys, so that pretty much covers the Titan swap suspension upgrade. I'll throw in some clips from the Canada trip if you guys are curious about that at the end. You can see really how, like, as we're driving over this rock bed from a dry river, just really how, like, the articulation and the softness of the suspension really just works and really helps keep that ride from being all jerky and whatnot. But before we end here, let me just do a walk around for you guys, and you can really see how the rig is sitting, the stance is, how wide the stance is. In the rear, I forgot to mention this, but in the rear we're running the Bora wheel spacers, 2.5 inches. I got their shirt on right here. If you guys looking for spacers, 100% recommend Bora. They're great, and their quality is just unmatched. So 100% recommend the Bora wheel spacers if you guys are looking for spacers. Now, as far as stance goes, we have the 2.5 spacer in the rear to push out the tire to get pretty close to the front tire. However, the front tire is sticking out just a smidge more. You can't really tell how much more because the wheels are turned right now. But if you look, we're sticking about one row of treads out. So we have about this much and maybe just a little bit more. On the front, we're pretty much like at least half of the second row, if not the full row in the front, just because of the Titan components that are on the truck really forces the tire to stick out. Now these wheels have a 0mm offset, so they stick out even more so than if you just had a standard Xterra tire, which I believe is like a -17 or something like that, millimeter offset, but don't hold me to that. But that being said, the stance is really wide, really, helps improve the ride quality with eliminating body roll because you don't have the front sway bar anymore with a Titan swap. And yeah, so absolutely in love with this Titan swap suspension. Wish I just went from the beginning and saved myself some money, but you live and you learn. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do a walk around. Alright guys, that'll about do it for today's video covering the Titan swap suspension. If you guys found this video helpful, please go ahead and give a thumbs up down below. That really helps me out. And if you're new to the channel, please go hit subscribe. I try to do a lot of these types of videos, but also a lot of videos where I go out and explore and just film it, and that way I can bring you guys the experience that I'm having, as you know, to the internet, and so that you guys can experience it as well. That being said, that'll about do it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. See ya.